the War of Roses. So this took me like, I looked at the War of Roses a few times in school, then college, then uni, and I didn't get it at all. And then when I actually looked into it a bit more closely, I'm like, okay, I get it, but it's a lot. His tragedies are funnier than his comedies. Some people say so. Again, did a lot of dark comedy in his plays. Right. So Shakespeare. Next part of the slideshow is Shakespeare. Shakespeare not only did comedies, plays, he did tragedies. He also did tetralogy, historical plays. So plays that were written about history, basically. The history of England and the royals, called the War of Roses. So you've got like Henry V, Henry. The first tetralogy consists of 3 Henry VI plays and Richard III. So I'm going to talk about this now, and then I'll explain in kind of the situation before I go into the monologue. The War of Roses, when you read them, unlike the other plays, again, basic set and stuff, but it's basically just a lot of people talking in rooms. I think there's like a battle scene in Richard III, I think. But there's not much happen. It's like EastEnders, right? And they're long plays, big, lengthy plays, and so much happens in them. Like, so much happens, going from affairs to deaths, to just random acts of fate, to fighting, to there's stories where one like duke backs up someone else, and then that duke, like there's a story of like someone is like, oh, you want to marry this woman, I'll go to France and back you up, and then when they're in France backing them up to get them engaged to this woman, that person marries someone else, so they come back and they're like, fuck you, why did you do that to me? I'm gonna join the other side. So then they just swap sides, right? So just like the Battle of Families, and basically there's a big kind of family, I say big family because it's very incestuous, but there's like different families in England who rule different lands, have slightly different values, and they're all kind of fighting each other for the throne. Game of Thrones was influenced by this. Yeah, so just exactly like Game of Thrones, right? Just think of Game of Thrones. So it's too complicated to kind of give you like an overall synopsis, because you've seen me trying to give you a synopsis of the 12th Night and it took ages. So Shakespeare wrote 2 series of history plays in groups of 4. Henry V is the last play in the second group. The other 3 plays are Richard II, Henry IV Part 1, Henry IV Part 2. The first tetralogy consists of 3 Henry VI plays. So this is what I'll mostly be talking about, is the tetra. History includes many falling outs, affairs, betrayals, alliances broken and remade, battlefield death, murders, jealousy between both men and women. Like jealousy between both men wanting the crown from each other. Women, there's not many women at all. The main ones, the ones I'm going to be talking about mostly is Queen Margaret, because that's who I'm going to be playing, that's who I am. And Queen Elizabeth, who ruled after her, and then Queen Margaret, you know, was wishing a lot of like badness towards her. There's not many female characters. But anyway, everyone just hated each other. I will try and summarise it as best as I can, because it's honestly too long and detailed to attempt writing. So, right. So let me try and summarise what's happening and give you backstory for the War of Roses. So, I might get some of this wrong, feel free to correct me. I watched multiple documentaries on the War of Roses and even read a couple of articles, and I still get confused about it. Yeah, so this is Shakespeare. Shakespeare wrote a play about it all. I don't know how true to what actually happened is. You know, it's history. It's written and rewritten and rewritten and just told how people want to tell it. But basically, at the start of what we'll be talking about is we have King Henry. Now, King Henry, young king, King Henry VI, right? King Henry VI. His grandfather was King Henry V. King Henry V, strong guy, captured a lot of lands, both in France and England. Everybody loved him. He was ruthless, good, strong bloke, right? Everyone was like, yes, we want another king like him. Henry VI, who I'll be talking about here, is his grandson. Now, Henry VI, unlike his grandfather... I'm doing a Shakespeare stream! Do you need to? Sorry, thank you, Regander. I'll put this off just now. Henry Henry VI, unlike his grandfather, was very weak, right? Didn't really want to be king. He became king because he was the successor. He became king. Didn't like battles, didn't like confrontation, didn't like talking about things. Just wanted to sit in his room all day and play games or whatever. Well, not actually game, but he would have in those days. He'd been sitting like just chilling, like with his dog, having a laugh. But he had to be king. He was heavily influenced by Duke of Gloucester, his uncle, who then died. And then his main influencer was Queen Margaret. But thank you, mods. Thank you, I appreciate it. But anyway, he was super weak. He actually ran away multiple times from the throne.
Mods.
Thank you. He ran away twice, more than twice, or some people say twice, from the throne because he didn't want to be king. He ran away to Scotland on one occasion and he was captured and then put back on the throne, like sit down and be king. And he's like, no. And I think ultimately King Henry actually asked to be a citizen. Like, he'll still rule, he'll still be king, but he wants to live like a citizen. He just doesn't want to do the king duties. Someone else can do that part, someone else can do the dirty work. He'll be king, but he'll just cut about. But that never happened because he was later slaughtered by Richard in prison. But basically, like, big story is that King Henry just wasn't a good king. He didn't want to be king. And today's time, you know, I kind of look at Henry and I'm like, actually, he was like the only decent person. He had empathy, didn't want to hurt anyone, he didn't like wars. He actually seemed like a nice guy. But in Shakespearean times, of course, he's emasculated. He's seen as weak. He's an inconvenience. Everyone hates him. They feel like they've been cursed with his ruling. So very different attitudes. And so he marries, so King Henry marries, this is where the Queen comes in, marries Margaret, Queen of Anjou, who is bartered basically from France, marries Henry without the promise of a dowry. So I'll go on to the next slide. She doesn't marry him with promise of a dowry, but promise of like lands in England for herself, right? That's the exchange because there was an alliance. Sort of alliance, sort of fall out a lot, because again, the War of Roses is... But an alliance between England and France. So Margaret from France marries Henry at Tritchfield Abbey in Hampshire. She was 15 at the time and he was 23. She was betrothed to King Henry of England by her uncle Charles VII of France, as part of a peace treaty between the two countries. The terms of marriage were that she would not provide a dowry and instead would receive the lands of Maine and Anjou from the English. Throughout the 4 plays in which she appears, Shakespeare consistently demonises her as a foul, wrinkled witch and a hateful red hag, and attributes a series of malevolent, immoral actions to her, including adultery and cruelty. So, like I said, Shakespeare, a lot of Shakespeare, right, just talk about women not nice at all. Queen Margaret actually a few years ago got her own play. She doesn't appear for long in the War of Roses, but there aren't really any other women that do. I think she has the biggest part. But Shakespeare, again, in those days depicted her. She was known as the mad queen, right, in history, but Shakespeare just depicted her as ruthless, as mean, manipulative. She did commit adultery. She was in love with the Duke of Suffolk. So she wasn't in love with Henry. She hated Henry. She thought Henry was a joke. She fell in love with the Duke of Suffolk, but the Duke of Suffolk was also killed because everybody was slayed. And later she mourns his death by carrying around his severed head. Look away for 30 seconds again. We're okay now, Thank you, mods, I appreciate it. Everyone did so much so young. I guess you had to when everyone dies by 30. So yeah, the death days in those days was like 30 odds. If you were lucky, make it to 30 actually. So throughout the 4 plays in which she appears, Shakespeare consistently demonises her as I've just read that. She's referred in history as the Mad Queen of England, but actually Margaret of Anjou was fierce, powerful and indomitable queen who ruled England in her frail husband's stead before unsuccessfully battling to secure the English crown for her son. Imagine being in your teens and having a midlife crisis. Well, that's what Shakespeare depicted her as, right? She was depicted as evil and horrible. I kind of like her in a way. Although she was quite evil, to be honest, but I mean, she was married at 15 and kind of bartered off to King Henry, and you know, she had a son with him, and King Henry basically, because of his weakness, lost their protection, right? King Henry just gave away the throne because he wasn't strong enough to maintain it. So you could argue that Queen Margaret, a lot of what she does was just to protect her son. But you could, I mean, she's kind of like, Queen Margaret's kind of like Cersei, right? If you watch Game of Thrones, I'd say Cersei is inspired a lot by Queen Margaret. Class stream. Thank you, Ibroxite. No good at DIY. So yeah. Oh, I thought I wrote way more facts about King Henry. I think I got bored and then I only wrote 2. So here's King Henry. There's a classical depiction of him looking quite sad and frail. Hi, British Gaming Black. Thank you. I really appreciate it. He looks bored. He doesn't look like he wants to be there. He's a king. He's just like, you know, not fun times. Hello, Karen. King Henry VI is very young, rather simple-minded monarch of excessive piety and naivety. He ran away to Scotland twice. They fined him and put him back. I think I just gave up writing here because, I mean, I can tell you anyway. He ran away to Scotland. He hated the throne so much that he bolted, and then they captured him and was like, "Sit down, Henry, and do your job." And he was like, "No, I just want to be normal. I just don't want to do this stuff." So it was kind of sad in a way. You can kind of empathize with him, more so today, obviously, because back then he was emasculated a lot. He was seen as a joke, but nowadays you can be like, no, actually, he didn't want to go to war, and that's a good thing. Whereabouts in Scotland did he go? I don't know exactly. I just read that he would just run. Probably just ran like fuck to get away. Just get a break. Poor Henry just wanted to play FIFA all day. Pretty much. He just wanted to sit in his room and play his Xbox and not bother with all this stuff. All I want to do is sing. He saw how many details you had for him and Henry became depressed in your slide. So, anyway, okay, so this is the monologue, right? These are some, before I do this monologue, I want to show you some pictures of it. So, just to get an idea of the relationship. So this monologue, takes place where, at the very start of kind of the War of Roses, where King Henry has, you know, was getting crap from York, Duke of York, because Duke of York thought he was the rightful heir to the throne and was angry that Henry had it. So he was like, "Oi, give me that throne." And how Henry came about to settling that argument was Henry said, "Do you know what? You can have it when I die. It's yours. Wait till I die. Probably won't last that long. You can have it after me." So he promises him the throne after he's dead. So Margaret comes into the room and she's like, "I have a son. We have a son, Edward, who's about 12, 13. And Edward's quite liked. He's seen as, you know, Henry V, who was Henry VI's grandfather, who was actually like a good, strong, ruthless king. And everyone's kind of hopeful that this young Edward is not going to be like his weak father. He's going to take over after Henry and he's going to set things right again. Everybody's going to feel safe, right? So Margaret comes in the room and she's like, "You just gave away the throne to York. What the F, David Blaine? We have a son. Like, you've just cut him off. That's not cool. How could you do that?" And then she's also kind of saying, like, "You idiot, like, why would you trust York?" Because York basically said, "Henry, if you give me the throne, you know, I'll look after you, it'll be chill. I know you don't really like being king anyway, it's fine." But Margaret's basically like, "You idiot, he's just gonna kill you. You're just gonna be an inconvenience. Like, you've just gave him the throne and you're just a pain in the ass now. He's just gonna slaughter you. Like, why would you do that? And now our son is not gonna be king, and where does that leave us?" So she is raging. And these are some images, as you can see, that kind of depict, I tried to get stage ones. Is there a movie? I think there's a BBC adaptation of King Henry and Margaret. I think, but I don't think there's many movies exact like Shakespeare. But here you can see King Henry looking quite worried, scared. Margaret shouting at him. Again, Margaret shouting at him. Margaret takes over the throne. So what basically happens at the end of this monologue, we can talk more about it after I do it. But what happens after this monologue, throughout the monologue, I'll explain because it's obviously quite hard to get just by me doing it, is at the start, she's like, what the heck, you gave away the throne. She's like, all these other people are in place, you know, are commanding all these other areas. We have no safety. Do you know what? Fuck you. I'm not going to sleep with you anymore. I'm not even going to look at you anymore. Actually, I'm a woman, I know that, but behind the scenes, I'm actually going to become king. And I'm going to protect my son, and I'm going to arrange battles with all my mates and everybody that I know, and we're going to fight York. There's a fly in here. We're going to fight York, and we're going to take it back. So what happens at the end is she's like, do you know what? Get out of my face, don't even want to speak to you. Come here, wee Edward. Don't you worry, son. We're going to go fight our own battles. So as you can see here, she's sitting in the throne. She's not king. Well, she's sitting in the Queen's throne actually, but she's sitting in the throne, she's having someone speaking to her, I don't know, it was probably Clifford or Northumberland, she had loads of pals. And in there, I think that image, I'm not sure, I might be wrong, but I've got a feeling that image is when Edward dies. So her son at the very, no actually in the next act, not at the very end, her son, you know, Edward, the wee guy who we think's gonna become Henry's successor, he gets killed in the battlefield and he's gone, he gets eliminated, goodbye. So she's raging. She's even more raging. So it's quite tragic what happens to her. Did you get that? Did that make sense? Thank you for the follows. I really appreciate it. Did that make sense? I wonder if they like been week long. I wonder if they do like week long thing where they I'm not reading that real. One of the plays each evening, that must be some experience. Wait, who? The Globe? Hi, short film you're working on? I don't, like, if you can send emails to me if you have anything about that, but I don't know. Saw on the 6 main histories in 3 days in 2008. Welcome, Aquaranta. Right, yeah, you get it. Yes, Snoopy the First. Okay, right. So, Queen Margaret monologue. So that's basically what happens before this monologue I'm about to do. What time is it? Oh, we're going at Shakespeare Sonnets next. What time is it? Okay, I can still shout a bit. It's 11. Okay, perfect. Hold on. I was gonna do the background for this, but I think I might just do darkness. I don't know why. Or should I get the I'll get the background. The background's more fun. I'm taking the hat off because it's not cool. Shakespeare green screen. Face is super up close when you get a green screen. Ha. No, I'm rage caging. I'm not doing the monologue when I'm rage caging with a stupid hat on my head. Henry will just laugh at me and won't take me seriously. Right. Do you want the background or black or darkness? Like just black behind me? What do you think's better? That to do it? Or in the castle? I wish I could have a picture of Henry. I thought about getting a mannequin of Henry, but I thought that was maybe a bit dumb. Like this? What was this? The castle? Okay. And again, after I do the monologue, we can talk about what parts meant what. Again, not a professional, but I'll try my best. What? Can the background be a photo of the hat? Right, you ready? Now I get quite raging in this, like super raging, so watch your ears. I don't know if yeah, I don't know if it'll peak or not. Chimchick, thank you so much. So much for the sub. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Hi Roscoe, how's it going? What's happening? Do my gloves? Right. Hope I've not drank so much. I hope I don't throw up water when I do this. Right. So, what did I explain, guys, before I do this monologue? What did I say is gonna happen? Carf, thank you so much for the prime. I've just paused it at the moment. Thank you, I really appreciate it. You said you put your hat on. I'm not putting the hat on! Shouting. So, Margaret has just found out that Henry has given away the throne that disinherits her son, and she is raging because she's like, what the fuck? We're all gonna die now. Like, you've just given away our power. Like, how could you do that? And then she, like, emasculates him, is, you know, just, like, really rude to him. And then she's like, do you know what? Fuck you. I'm actually gonna go start a battle myself. I might make mistakes, I might blah blah blah, but I'll try my best. Right, you ready? I'm gonna look there. Right, you ready? You can do it. You're awkward, man. Right. And again, if you don't get it, don't worry. I never get it either at the start. It's just a bunch of gibberish, and then we can discuss it after. Right. So I'm coming in. Enforce thee. Art thou king and wilt be forced? Shame to hear thee speak. Timorous wretch! Thou hast undone thyself, thy son, and me, and given to the house of York such head as thou shalt reign but by their sufferance, to entail him and his heirs into the throne. What is it? But to make thy sepulchre and creep into it far before thy time. Warwick is Chancellor and Lord of Calais. Still Falconbridge commands the narrow seas. The Duke is made protector of the realm, and yet shalt thou be safe? Such safety finds the trembling lamb environed with wolves. Oh, but had I been there, which I'm a silly woman, the soldiers would have tossed me on their pegs before I would have granted to that act. But dost prefers thy life before thine honour. And seeing thou dost, I hereby divorce myself. Both from thy table, Henry, and from thy bed, whereby the Act of Parliament can be repealed, whereby my son is disinherited. The northern lords that have forsworn their colours will follow mine if once they see them spread. And spread they shall be to thy full disgrace. Come, son. Our army is ready. Come, and we'll after them. So, I fucked up a few times, but basically, she, did you get the parts that I described? That's top. Thank you for the roses. I appreciate it. now brink out. I can resume the alerts now. Mr. Vicious, thank you so much for the gifted sub. Thank you. Hat. Right, fine, I'll put on the fucking hat. Thank you for the 100 bits. Thank you, I appreciate it. Did you get that one? Poor Henry got demolished. So, I tried not, like, sometimes people, it can be, again, Shakespeare's done so many ways. I've seen this done multiple ways where some people are just like, I hate you, like, you're disgusting. Some people are like, what the fuck? And then other people are kind of, I've seen other people play it where they've had maybe some feelings for Henry, like, they've, you know, they're kind of disgusted, they really wanted to like them. I mean, they get married to Henry at 15. Margaret got married to Henry at 15. She didn't choose to be married to him, but she's like, really, you've let me down, and she's hurt. It can be played in multiple ways. Drug Irish Steve, thank you so much for the 5 subs. Thank you, I really appreciate it. For the hat, thank you. Wait a minute, let me put the screen off and I'll put the thing back on. How'd I put the PowerPoint back on? Most enjoyable thing I've seen on Twitch. Bravo. Also, good evening, gang. Thank you, Toneless. How's it going, pal? Thank you. Right, Shakespeare Green. Ah, wait, how did I put my thing? I don't know how to get my thing back on. Right, the hat is amazing. Thank you. So let's talk about what happened. Thank you for the claps and stuff. I really appreciate it, guys. I like doing that. I think I like, my favourite character playing Shakespeare is Queen Margaret, just because she's angry and she's evil, and or she's you can argue, you know, that she has backing for some of the stuff that she does. Personally, I do think she is quite just evil, like, even though, you know, like, she's had a lot of hardships and things she wasn't forced to, and she is protecting her children. Kind of like Cersei, right? Cersei, you could argue she did what she did to protect her children, but no, Cersei, I think, was just downright quite evil and not a nice person. After this, what happens is, after that monologue, so after she's raging at Henry, as you've seen, the Northern Lords that have forsworn their colours, she tries to compose herself. She's like, right, okay, Northern Lords have forsworn their colours, they're going to follow me. Do you know what? I'm actually going to take your place. They're going to follow me. Hold on, let me put my... I can't get the display capture to work again. Oh, maybe I dragged it off screen, that's what it was. Wait. Fit to screen. Ah, Sabina! Yes, right. Okay. So, enforce thee art thou king, right? So, enforce thee art thou king, right? Enforce thee art thou king. Sorry, this is a boring part. I'm going to just do an analysis because I like doing this. Because this is what you... If you're doing a Shakespeare monologue, if you're learning Shakespeare, you want to tag Shakespeare, this is basically what you need to do. So, enforce thee art thou king and will be forced. Like, you're a king. You are a king, right? You're the king, not York. York is not... York, who persuaded you there, is not the king. You're the king, and they forced you. Like, what the F, David Blaine? That's not right. I shame to hear they speak. Timorous wretch. You know, timorous. You're timid. You're pathetic. You're weak. I hate you. Thou hast undone thyself, thy son, and me. So not only have you, you know, just made a bargain for yourself, you've jeopardised my position, and you've disinherited your son. He can no longer be king because of you. Given it to the house of York such head. I'm reading from this, by the way. Hold on, put that off. Given to the house of York such head, as thou shalt reign, but by their sufferance. So you've just given him the throne, and they're not going to reign. They're going to reign, and you're going to suffer. To entail him and his heirs into the crown, what is it but to make thy sepulchre and creep into it far before thy time? So, giving him the throne, what does that mean? You've literally just dug your own grave and creeped into it yourself. You've just dug your own grave and put yourself in it, you idiot. Warwick is Chancellor and Lord of Caliston, Falconbridge commands and all seas, the Duke is made protector of the realm. So all of these people now are going to get all these big positions, all these people who don't like you, who aren't pals with us. How are you going to be safe? You are no longer king. What, you know, what is going to stop us from just being invaded and just slaughtered because we're an inconvenience? Because you know, by genetics, by blood, we're royals, right? So, you know, back in those days, the royals, if you were born into it, right? You can't, as much as Henry, as I told you guys, Henry wants to just go be a normal bloke cutting about, going to the pub. He can't, because by blood, he's a royal. So, yeah, all these people hate us. They're just going to slaughter us. Like a trembling lamb environed with wolves. I feel like that's pretty easy to understand that one. So Henry's a little lamb and everyone around him is a wolf just waiting to... had I been there, which I'm a silly woman. I like that line because she's like, oh, had I been there? But, you know, which I'm a silly woman. We spoke a lot this stream about how women weren't taken seriously, were seen as weak. Where, you know, weren't allowed to do the roles that men were doing. Which I'm a silly woman, ha ha ha, state of me. You know, if I'd have been there, I'm a silly woman. The soldiers would have tossed me on their spikes before. Is it pikes or spikes? I think I said pikes. The soldiers would have tossed me on their pikes before I would have granted to that act. So they would have killed me before I would ever have said, you have the throne. She's basically saying, yeah, you know, basically saying, you know, I would have died before giving up the throne like you've just went and done. Before I would have granted to that act. So before I would have granted that act, I would have died. But thou prefers thy life before thine honour. So she's basically saying, you know what, you're selfish. You just care about you. You care about you just wanting to sit indoors all day and play FIFA. You don't care about being the king. You don't care about me. You don't care about your son. And upon seeing you do that, and seeing thou dost, I here divorce myself, both from thy table, Henry, and from thy bed. So she's no longer going to play the part of his wife. She's no longer going to sleep in the same bed as him. She's no longer eat dinner with him. She's just, you know, she has to just exist in the house because they've both got roles to play. But really, I'm not going to act like your wife. I hate you. I cannot stand you for what you've just done. Until that act of parliament can be repealed, whereby my son is disinherited. So until you fix your ship, you probably won't because I'm going to do it anyway. But until it is fixed and my son is back as a successor to the throne, I'm not going to be your wife. The northern lords that have forsworn thy colours will follow mine if once they see them spread. So now she's like, northern lords that have forsworn their colours. So now she's thinking about our pals. Remember when I told you Margaret was promised some land and stuff upon marrying Henry? All these pals she's got, they're all going to follow me. I'm going to gather an army of my own, and we're going to fight York. And spread they shall be to thy fell disgrace. Again, just state to you, we're going to go to battle, and you're going to be a joke. An utter ruin of the house of York. Thus do I leave thee. Come, son, let's away. Our army is ready. Come, and we'll after them. So yeah. Thus do I leave thee. Come, son, let's away our army. So she's basically just saying her son. I don't know if you got that. I was trying to imagine that the son was behind me the whole time, just in the room with me, like, Mummy and Daddy arguing again. And I was like, right, let's go, Edward. Me and you are going to start an army, and we're going to fight to basically just in state of Henry just giving it away. Does that make sense? That's the whole monologue. Any questions? Well, does Toastie hate David Blaine? No, it comes from a YouTube video that I loved as a kid when people were parodying David Blaine's magic, and they would go, what the F, David Blaine? And then I don't know why, I just always said it. What will this be on the test at the end? It might be. I don't know. I can show you the video after if you remind me on another stream. I'll show you the David Blaine video. I can't tell you what would be on the test after because that would be spoiling it. So, yeah. So that's basically what happens. If you want to know some more, sorry for burping. After this, Margaret goes to war. She doesn't succeed. She doesn't win. That's when the whole Richard, again we spoke of Richard. I won't go on and on about Richard because there's so much, right? That's like a whole other slide. The king, no, sorry, Richard, who is York's son? One of York's son, who is depicted as kind of grotesque looking with a kind of hunchback and not nice. Again, Shakespeare was probably the reason for many of these stereotypes today. Richard is seen as just a guy who has accepted that he's never going to be with a woman. Women are never going to fall in love with him. Doesn't care about them. He just wants the throne. So after Margaret kills York, who she's talking about in this, she actually does succeed in killing York. And she does it in a very mean manner. She captures York, who Henry promises the throne to. She captures York. And when she captures him, this is when she gets super evil. This is when you know in the play, actually, Margaret, don't really empathy. I don't really have any sympathy for her anymore because that's not cool. She captures York. She kills one of York's sons, and while she's captured York, she dangles a handkerchief in front of York with blood, with the son's blood on it, and is like, "Look, York, I stained the napkin with the blood." And then she's like, "Hee hee hee hee," and then she's dangling it in front of him because she's just, as pure evil. Like, there's no, I don't think there's any, you know, reason for that at all. And yeah, so she's like, "Where are your valiant sons now, Dickie, your boy?" With his rumbling voice, "Where's Dickie?" You know, his grumbling voice, like Dickie, short for Richard, you know, where's Richard and all that. None of the sons are to protect York. She kills York. So York's dead. And then, are you keeping up, by the way? Sorry, I could rant. There's just so much to this. It's like Game of Thrones explaining. There's a lot. I could rant about it for ages. But, are you getting it? Just tell me to shut up if I'm going too far. She kills York. And then basically after she kills York, his son, Richard, is mainly the one with the biggest ambition for the throne. Hence why you then have Richard III after the Henry VI Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. Right? So basically the kind of War of Roses is about a lot of like people fighting, losing the throne, and if they lose, the battle's not over yet because their son then joins in, and their son then joins in, right? So it's just a never-ending family trees basically fighting one another. That's why it's so long and drawn out. Because one person fails, pops out a baby, that baby then tries. They fail, pops out another baby, that baby then tries. That's why it just goes on and on and on, and a lot of things happen in between. I am, if we could go back to the start, it could be grateful. Crusader Kings the Third. Is that a game? Is that not a game? Okay, so that's the end of the histories. Really, I didn't write any more. I was about to, but then I was like, I'd be streaming this stream till 1 in the morning. So we did, to cover what we recapped today, we did cool facts, popular Shakespeare theatre, comedies, 12th Night, change of costume change, tragedy, Macbeth, spoke a little bit about Macbeth, and then the War of Roses. I'm going to go on to sonnets now. Sonnets are slightly different for the last part of the slide, but that's me done the play part of Shakespeare. Anyone have anything they want to say or like chat was about before I go on to sonnets? Sonnets isn't that long. There's only a tiny wee bit just about sonnets because I thought you can't really like leave out the sonnets. Hold on, I'm just getting Twitch chat on my phone. So excellent, thank you. I also had background on this, didn't I? Can hippos swim? Don't even start me. Right, okay. So, this was wicked entertaining. Thank you. I'm really happy that it was well received. I'll generally be honest with you. I generally didn't think many of you, like I know a lot of you said you wanted a Shakespeare stream, but I was like, Shakespeare's super boring to a lot of people. This is like, I'm just really grateful a lot of you are like chatting about it or showing interest. If it's genuine or not. This is so good. I wonder if there's a wider genre of people doing Shakespeare stuff on Twitch. There probably is, but I've not seen it, obviously, because it's mostly gaming, innit? I love how I know very little the War of Roses, and I have my first exposure of it in such a wonderful way. So yeah, what I spoke about was Shakespeare's adaptation of the War of Roses, right? That they say is historically accurate, but again, so much stabbing, so much killing, so much. I don't actually know, but it's the Shakespeare side. Like it's this historical play, but it's probably a lot of fiction with like Hollywoodism, not Hollywood, but you know what I mean, and like embellishment and stuff to make it entertaining. And that's who you fancy. Shakespearean's help. Right. So go on to sonnets now. Will we go on to sonnets quickly? Oh. Shakespeare's sonnets. Right. So, Shakespeare wrote how many plays? Tell me, chat, how many plays did Shakespeare write? 2 narratives and how many plays? How many plays? You move the camera up a bit. Okay, so he wrote 38 plays. How many sonnets did he write? I wrote here, didn't I? 154, it's on the screen. Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets. So what sonnet was? The word sonnet was derived from sonetto, an Italian word that means sound or song. That's where the word sonnet came from. Shakespeare didn't invent sonnets. You'll find out. Giacomo da Lentini was a poet who lived in the 13th century that invented this poetic style and the first sonnet. Many writers started adopting the poetic style after him. The sonnet form started during the Middle Ages in Italy and broadly spread during the Renaissance. Michelangelo also wrote sonnets, by the way. I just added that in there because everybody knows Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel, right? Not the Ninja Turtle. He also wrote sonnets. Sonnets were just a cool thing for a lot of artists to do. I love this so much. Thank you, Shelby. A Shakespeare sonnet is different from a traditional Italian sonnet. So Shakespeare, innovator, you know, rewrote how plays were being played by the Renaissance. And he also invented his own style of sonnets. Hence why people always think of Shakespeare when they think of sonnets. So, Shakespeare's sonnet is different from a traditional Italian sonnet. The style emerged during the Elizabethan era in England. This poetic form is commonly known as an English sonnet or as an Elizabethan sonnet. This sonnet has 14 lines with subgroups and is 3 quatrains and a final couplet. Each line is framed in iambic pentameter with 10 syllables. Shakespeare's sonnets apply A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G is a rhyming scheme. So different rhyming schemes, but iambic pentameter. I can't do an iambic pentameter right now. Like, basically just rhyming of fifths. 10 syllables each line. Wait a minute. I'll show you when we do. I'm gonna read some sonnets to you, so I'll show you what you mean by the rhyming. But they all follow a structure. They are poems with 14 lines in one stanza and are written with rhyme. They usually always rhyme. Sonnet is framed in a metrical construction with mostly an iambic pentameter. Iambic pentameter has 10 syllables and 5 pairs each line. Each pair has a second stressed syllable. Must have been getting tired here because that's literally just the same fact I've written. Shakespeare's sonnets are related to real life because they address existential concerns that we all wrestle with at some point in our life. So I'll kind of show that in the sonnets that I'm about to read to you. Women in Shakespeare's sonnets are represented in a deeply misogynistic manner. Had to get the feminist point in. And are frequently seen within them as less valuable, honest and loving than men are portrayed to be. Sonnets directed to a male lover demonstrate deep affection and mutual respect in their representation of love. So again, this is one of the reasons why you have all these theories that Shakespeare was actually a woman because he's writing to a man. I don't know why they would just eliminate like homosexuality being a thing. Because Shakespeare, for the first 100 or so sonnets, Shakespeare wrote all his sonnets to a man. He wrote about love a lot of the sonnets are about love, but I'll show you. And almost every scholar confirms that, yeah, these sonnets were written about a male. For like the last 20 odd sonnets, that I told you at the start of the stream, for the last 20 odd sonnets he wrote, 20 or so, he wrote about a woman. An elderly woman who was older than he was, and is depicted as like a dark kind of not so nice lady with a lot of flaws. The sonnet that I'll read to you actually I think is quite sweet, to be honest, but basically just a completely contrasting tone in how he talks about the man at the start and then the woman. The sonnets are all titled by number, like Sonnet 1, Sonnet 2, Sonnet 3, because he wrote them in like chronological. He didn't wrote them chronological. He wrote them in order, right? So he writes them, so then people, when they read them, think that this is a journey that he's got. I kind of believe the argument that Shakespeare, if it was Shakespeare who wrote them all, didn't actually write about, you know, his own lover, that he was in love with a man and he was in love with a woman. I think he was actually probably just writing what was trending. Like if he had Twitter, or if he had TikTok, for example, and he saw like cake trending, he'd just write about cake. Because I think he was just writing what he thought people wanted to hear, because, you know, he was rich, he was wealthy, he wrote, like a lot of artists write what's popular, like pop songs, okay? But again, Shakespeare's argued about so much that some people think, no, he was either a woman or he was a gay man or whatever, and he was in love with a young man, hence why he wrote all these poems about them. You can make up your own mind. But the two sonnets I'm going to read to you, I'm actually going to get them on my phone, I don't know them. But I'll read to you. I just thought I just picked them because I thought they were quite contrasting, so I tried to pick one that he wrote about a man. That are some of his, these two are one of his most famous ones, so some of you might already know them. One they wrote about the wee bloke, and then one about the woman. Again, thing why Shakespeare sonnets are so loved, even in today's time, is that people use the sonnets a lot because Shakespeare wrote to reflect real life, right? So Shakespeare's writing about, for example, being in love with someone or falling in love and thinking that you'll never be able to fall out of that love. Even if that person dies, you'll always love them. Shakespeare has a sonnet for them. Shakespeare has sonnets about growing old. Shakespeare has sonnets about falling in love, and it's not how it's depicted in the movies, it's actually slightly different. A lot of it's about love. Shakespeare has sonnets. He just has so many sonnets about different things that are still used today to apply to life and how people feel. You know, a lot of people post sonnets and cards if they want to convey feelings to someone. It's quite common to put a sonnet in a Valentine's card and be like, this is how I feel about you. Yeah? There's also the theory Shakespeare is not one person, but a collection of people. So yeah, I spoke about that at the start. Shakespeare was known to collaborate, so it's probably true. He had a lot of people collaborating. There was no such thing as copyright. Probably stole a lot of works as well. There's also the theory that Shakespeare, some of his works were written by a woman, but this woman chose to use Shakespeare's name because women back then weren't allowed to publish work, so it was very hard for them to do so. So much. Just so much. So many theories. Again, I don't really know. I'm just saying what I heard. You look lovely. Thank you. Right, Sonnet 18. Sonnet 18. So, where will I put myself? Do you want me to go to the... Will I leave it on screen, or will I go to the forest for this? What's better? I'm not acting this at all. I'm saying a poem. I've not really practiced it, or I've never really said it before. I'm just going to read it. Why are you laughing? Butsy, fuck off. Can we read along? Okay, we'll read along. I'm going to read it off my phone. Sonnet 18. Right. So, this is a cute sonnet. This is one of his most famous sonnets. Sonnet 18. So this sonnet is argued almost universally, some people still don't believe, but universally agreed upon by scholars that it's about a young man. Some people say it was a friend of Shakespeare's who then fell in love with a lover. I read it first. I didn't really get, honestly, I had to look up the analysis for it because I didn't really get it at first. Some of you might get it. I don't know. There's not a big deal if you don't. It's in Shakespearean. Right. So, I'll try and be serious. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's leaf hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the high I fucked it. Can I go back to start, please? I just fucked the iambic. I'm getting tired. Iambic pentameter. Right, I'll do it again. I think I'm bursting again for the toilet. I don't know why. I just went. Right. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's leaf hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou wast, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Fucked up the rhyming a bit there, but there you go. So, this poem is used a lot by lovers today. They copy and paste this poem and they're like, oh my god, that depicts how much I fancy you. That, yeah, it's a cute poem. Shall I compare thee to summer's day? Basically comparing them a summer's day. Art more lovely and more temperate, rough winds do shake. Right, it's I don't need to go through it all because a lot of it, you know, it's using words like gold, darling buds of May, eye of heaven shines, nature's changing course untrimmed, eternal summer. It's using all these like lovely, like romantic, passionate words of, oh my god, you're so stunning. Basically they're saying at the end, the poet's saying at the end, Shakespeare's saying at the end, sorry, nor shall death brag thou once in his shade, when eternal lines to time thou growest. So basically saying, even if you die, I'm going to make sure you live forever in the words of this poem. Which is a reason that a lot of some scholars, so for example James Boyd White, his famous sonnet is on this view: one long exercise in self-glorification, not a love poem at all, surely not suitable for earnest recitation at a wedding or anniversary party or a valentine. So some people are like, actually it's not a love poem, you're actually just glorifying yourself and more kind of making a point about how you have such talent for putting things into words, and it's very superficial as well, right? It's mostly just talking about how this person looks, comparing them at summer's day, gold. Again, obviously it's about youth, young, beautiful, stunning, I love you. It's quite shallow, right? Some argue, some people think it's not, some people think it's hot shit. Hello Litterbug. But yeah. So what do you think about the poem? It's cute. Does anyone wrote that poem? That's one of his most famous love poems. I think it's obviously famous because of just the imagery, right? Summer's day, love. People are saying, oh my god, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to listen to. It's got beautiful imagery. It's just serene. That's why it's famous. It gets used a lot. Pedantic gets a bit over the top. What is it people say? What is it about? I mind the stock image. The sonnet's enduring power comes from Shakespeare's ability to capture the essence of love so clearly and succinctly. I don't even know that word. After much debate among scholars, it is now generally accepted that the subject of the poem is male. Folk think it's about a young poet friend whom he falls in love with. The majority of sonnets are addressed to a young man. So again, from 1 to 106 sonnets that Shakespeare wrote and published in order, they're all about a young man. Or mainly about a young man, with whom the poet has an intense romantic relationship with. The poet spends the first 17 sonnets trying to convince the young man to marry and have children, beautiful children that will just look like their father, ensuring his immortality. Again, some people say that means that Shakespeare was obviously a woman, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, I actually don't know. I just think there could be a multitude of reasons, like he was just writing to what people would like to use and read and pass about, right? Because the whole point of sonnets back then, you want them to be popular, you want people to relate to them, you want people to recite them or buy them to send to their loved ones. Don't even crop out the link. What link? Oh, sorry, I didn't know how to. Look at you flexing the green screen. I know, I just got it. I don't know why it took me so long. We've done so many activities with this in like the space of 2 days. Is great. There's James Boyd White, who was like, I think he's a lawyer or something, who said that some interpret the poem as a eulogy Am I saying that right? Eulogy. Remembering someone. So there was another theory about this poem. Again, because it's a poem, it can be interpreted so many ways. That it's not about a young lover. It's actually about someone that Shakespeare has loved and has since died. So some people say it was about Shakespeare's son Hamnet, who died shortly before this. Or some people are saying it's about his nephew, who also died. And it's actually talking about just how much they loved them, how much joy they brought to them, and all the bottom part of the poem talking about how when in eternal lines to time thou growest, talking about how he's gonna forever permanently put their memory in the lines of this poem. Eulogy, sorry, thank you. So it was a little fruity. Right, so did you get that poem before I move on to the next one? Because the next poem is complete not contradiction, but contrasting. And that's why I picked the other poem, because I just wanted to give you a sense of just how different they are. Like, they're not all pure la 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 sonnets about love and sun shining at their arseholes. Actually, some of them are quite tongue-in-cheek and more realistic, kinda. Of course, the way men expressed their affections to other men was different in times. Modern day views of masculinity don't apply to past male interactions. Of course, it could be love between two men. It just needs to be. I think it could be, like, it definitely could be love between two men. Like, I'd remember seeing a comment on a phone that was like, homosexuality didn't exist back then. It's just stupid. Obviously, it was just stupid. But no, it could be. It could be about a guy. It could be about women. It could be written by a woman. Again, they haven't debunked these series that Shakespeare definitely was Shakespeare. A lot of people claim false. Whatever. So next one. So sonnet 130. This sonnet is 130. So sonnet 1 to 126 was written about a man. Then after this, Shakespeare's sonnets started writing about women, particularly an elder woman who had a lot of flaws that he liked to write about, who he was in love with, but also kind of wrote, like, was less sunshine, rainbows, everything's great, and more actually you stink and I hate you, but I still love you, kind of thing, right? Tough love, I guess some would say. Which is great, because back in those days, this kind of poetry wasn't really a thing. It was mostly really simple and stuff. Like, Shakespeare, they say here, is kind of defying poetic works and stuff back in the day. Because, you know, back then, what was before Elizabethan, Renaissance, and then Greeks and Romans, they were obsessed, kind of like Hollywood obsessed with beauty and perfectionism and, like, youth, right? Whereas these sonnets go against that. So listen to this one and you can tell. Hold on, I get it on my phone. Youth, yeah. Like, we've always been really superficial, humanity. It's not just Hollywood. Right. Okay. Are you ready for this one? Last Shakespeare read of the day. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun? If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked, red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes there is more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. So did you pick up any of this? I do believe the sonnets you picked are the exact sonnets I had to look at in secondary school. No way, because I actually looked at just the most popular ones and I read them. Like, I didn't get told, I didn't like see anyone tell me these. I read a lot of sonnets and I was like, okay, these are the most contrasting. They're the easiest to understand also, so I picked these ones. But yeah, so you can see the imagery here. Coral far more red than lips red. Basically saying her lips, you know, red is the luscious, sexy, attractive colour. Her lips are actually quite pinky and stained. If snow be white, why her breasts done? I'm making fun of her breasts? That's harsh. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. So her hair's wiry and like wires then. I have seen roses damask red and white, but no such roses. I seen her cheeks. No rosy cheeks. Roses, youthful. Roses are rosy cheeks associated with youthfulness, beauty, like la kind of stuff. She's got none of that. In some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. A lot of interpretations from that, but the main one that I took from that is that her breath is honking. She stinks. Her perfume's either non-existent or it's minging because she's just pure stinky. I love to hear her speak, yet will I know. So this is when you kind of realise actually Shakespeare loves this woman. She's not your typical Hollywoody, superficial, what we heard before, sunshine out there are, eternal sunshine, golden, blah, kind of stuff. It's just more realistic, kind of, like a human being. Like, especially in those days, they didn't have... Well, they didn't have toothpaste. The music have a far more pleasing sound. So I love to hear her speak, but music, she's got not got a nice voice either. When she walks, she treads on the ground, so she walks quite heavily, contrasting to how, you know, I guess beautiful people are depicted before then as like floating elegantly and all that. And yet by heaven, I think my love is rare, as any she belied with false compare. So he's basically concluding this poem that I actually still love you. All these faults and all these things that don't actually agree with depiction of love and lovers back, you know, before this, in the sonnets that he literally... I don't know why people are like, oh, Shakespeare got it, man. This poem's like the real... This is reality. When we just read a poem by him and it was pure, like... I don't know, eternal sunshine and all that shit. But basically, this is the complete opposite of that poem. He did the first civilization historians have documented using toothpaste like mixture to brush their teeth like Egyptians. Well, it wasn't any. What's the famous toothpaste? Cologne. It was no. What's the famous toothpaste? It was none of that, right? Colgate. It was no Colgate, basically. Yeah, thank you. It was, and not everyone had access to it. It was probably for like upper class. And it again in those days. I don't know, there is a rumour that Elizabethan people didn't wash well, but they did. Like, the Romans and the Greeks washed all the time. They had baths and stuff. It wasn't until the plague, I think, people started to not wash as much. But I think in the Elizabethan time and stuff, people just washed the same. Like, you have this misconception that the medieval time, everybody was pure dirty and minging. It was only until the plagues and stuff started, because there was a rumour going about the washing your hands actually spread the plague. But anyway... wires, hairs be wires. I think it's just the fact that this like woman's old as well. Back in those days, probably not old, right? Probably only late 20s, 30s, but back in those days you aged at like 5 times the speed. Hello Amy, by the way, how's it going? You aged at like 5 times the speed, so probably just talking about things that happen. You know, you go through childbirths, life is stressful, you don't have the same care, moisturisers, medicines as you do today. So, you know, by the ages of like 15, you're pretty withered in that life. Didn't the Romans and Greeks use oil and scrapers? I don't know what they did. I just know the oils, the Romans and Greeks were all about hygiene and bath life. They loved taking baths. And that was carried on. So then obviously... Renaissance, Elizabethan, Jacobean. I'm missing a few periods there, but yeah. Even upper class had bad teeth. Yeah, so good teeth wasn't a thing. Other sonnets which isn't concerned entirely with the subject's physical appearance. I think there is, yeah. There's sonnets that are about just aging or time, passes of time. There's a sonnet about sleeping. There are, yeah. But I've not got any. This is the only sonnet I've got listed. Thank you for the follows, folks. A lot of it though was about love and appearance. Shakespeare wrote a lot about love in all of his plays, his tragedies, his comedies, his sonnets. But this sonnet is supposed to be seen as like a contrast to how physical appearance doesn't just mean you love them. Like, love is actually deeper than this. Actually, you've got all these flaws, but at the end, I think my love is rare. Right? I can't help it. I love you. Like, I just love you for what you are. Even though all this media back then, all these other literatures and poems and everything saying that I shouldn't love you because you don't resemble what's in those other poems. You don't resemble golden luscious hair and rosy cheeks and, you know, frolicking gracefully through the forest. You're not that, but I love you anyway. What is love? Did you get it? Any questions? Because that... Oh, I've got one more slide, sorry. I just said it all anyway. But that's what I just said. Sonnet 130 is an unusual poem because it turns the idea of female beauty on its head and offers a reader an alternative view of what it's like to love a woman, warts and all, despite her shortcomings. He tries to find more authentic, realistic way to talk about these things in the sonnet and gleefully dismisses the highly artificial poems of praise his peers are writing. The mistresses' imperfections are praised, and by so doing, it could be argued that the speaker is being more honest. True love isn't relying on some elusive notion of perfect beauty. The speaker accepts that his lover isn't a paragon of beauty, but a real woman with wiry black hair, off-white breasts, and stinking breath. There is no... Oh no, I broke my beads! No! They were like glued together. I'm going to need to glue them back on. There is no poetic falsity on display. Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets, 127 to 100. So it was 127 to 154 addressed to the mysterious dark lady, possible real-life lover of the poet. So Sonnet 130 belongs to a subset of poems that delve into this relationship, expressing pain, delight, anguish, and playfulness. So this lady also wasn't really much of a looker. She was also quite a bit of a pain in the arse. Just had a, like, and again, what backs up my point is Shakespeare, when he wrote about women, he didn't really write about them nicely. He wasn't really nice. I don't really think Shakespeare's much a feminist, to be honest, now that I think about it. It is clear that from these 28 sonnets, the speaker was deeply in love with this woman, yet torn emotionally because she lied, was deceitful and cruel. But by accepting her faults, and then the fact just disappeared. I think I just stopped writing there. I'm very sorry. But accepting her faults, he just found out he was always going to be loved for her. So that concludes the end of the Shakespeare stream. Please like and subscribe. Anything you want to talk about? That's the end. That's all. The slideshow's done. I know you waited a year and a half for this stream. So I just wanted to get... Sorry, I missed it. Can you restart?